Welcome to the September 21st, 2020 Frankfort Village Board meeting. We call this meeting to order and we ask our clerk, Brian Feary, to take the roll, please.
Mayor Holland.
Here.
Trustee Borelli. Here. Trustee Clavio. Here. Trustee Farina. Here. Trustee Ogle. Here. Trustee Petro. Here. Trustee Severia. Here. Clerk is here. Attorney Mahoney. Here. Attorney Lamore. Village Administrator Pisha. Here. Assistant Administrator Cook. Here. Deputy Chief Dowding. Here. All present.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on our agenda is what we call the unanimous consent agenda. All items on the unanimous consent agenda are considered routine in nature and will be voted on after a single motion. If one of the trustees wants to discuss any of the items on the consent agenda in more detail, we'll just remove that item from the consent agenda. So I first ask, do any trustees want to remove any items from the consent agenda? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
We have a motion by Trustee Ogle and a second by Trustee Severia. We do want the audience here in our boardroom, the audience at home on the television and on the internet to know something about each of the items that we're passing in the consent agenda, so we'll go over each one of them briefly. There are quite a number of them this evening. The first item is the approval of the minutes from our last meeting on September 8th. The second item is the approval of the bills, and we'll go to Trustee Severia for a report on the bills.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bills this evening total $1,648,442.53. Some items of interest on the report. Our sewer transplant abandonment continues to be a large expense with $333,247.19 for Joseph Henderson and Sons. We had a line item for repaving of 84th Avenue intersection for $37,834.79. We also had a line item for municipal mowing for $22,743 even. I thought that was kind of interesting because I figure in a couple months we're going to have municipal plowing on the line items. So those are the bills for this evening.
Thank you, Gene, and then we'll go right back to Trustee Severia for a report from our Financial Affairs Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The village is required to complete a set of financial statements which are presented in conformity with generally accepted accounting principles, GAAP, within 6 months following the close of the fiscal year. The report is culminated in the past year's financial activity as a formal mechanism used to communicate to the public the financial status of the village. These financial statements are audited by licensed certified public accountant firm Lauterbach and Amen LLP in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards. The village's fiscal year runs from May 1st through April 30th. At the Financial Affairs Committee public meeting held on September 9th, 2020, Lauterbach and Amen Representative Matt Barron presented the information from the audit to the village's corporate authorities and committee members. It was a consensus of the committee to forward a recommendation to the village board to accept the Village of Frankfort's comprehensive annual financial report for the fiscal year ended April 30th, 2020 as presented. Motion, accept the recommendation of the Financial Affairs Committee to accept the Village of Frankfort's comprehensive annual financial report for the fiscal year ended April 30th, 2020.
Thank you, Gene. And we have several items from the Land Use and Policy Committee, and we'll go to Trustee Ogle, the chair of that committee, for a report on those items.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's 3 items tonight on here, and the first item was a compliance ticket ordinance amendment. At our Land Use and Policy Committee meeting held on September 9th, 2020, Police Chief John Barica provided an overview of a proposed revisions to the compliance ticket ordinance. Proposed changes include updates related to state law changes and the addition of certain violations as minor offenses for which the compliance ticket would be applicable. So I move we accept the recommendation of the Land Use and Policy Committee, waive the first and second readings, and pass an ordinance amending Chapter 36 of the Village of Frankfort Code of Ordinances, Sections 36.01 and 36.03, to reflect modifications pertaining to compliance tickets. The second item tonight is drug offense ordinance amendment. And Chief Barica also presented a proposed modification to the drug offenses ordinance pertaining to the use and possession of cannabis and drug paraphernalia. Proposed changes are pursuant to the provisions of the Illinois Cannabis Regulation and Tax Act, Public Act 101.0027, and they have been reviewed by legal counsel. I motion that we accept the recommendation of the Land Use and Policy Committee, waive the first and second readings, and pass an ordinance amending Chapter 136 of the Village of Frankfort Code of Ordinances, Sections 136.06 and 136.07 and 136.99, Section B, to reflect modifications pertaining to the use and possession of cannabis and drug paraphernalia. Our third and final one from Land Use is a Historic Preservation Ordinance Amendment. On February 25th of 2020, the Frankfort Historic Preservation Commission forwarded a preliminary determination that St. Peter's Church of Christ at 12 West Sauk Trail met the criteria for local landmark status. Upon receipt of the determination, staff initiated village review of the application and supporting documentation, as well as the procedural requirements for designation as outlined in the ordinance. In reviewing the Historic Preservation Ordinance, staff had noted that there were several key items of the landmark designation process that lacked clarity. At its March 11th, 2020 meeting, the Land Use and Policy Committee discussed the issues and directed staff to review the ordinance and prepare a comprehensive update to provide additional clarity and consistency throughout. A draft ordinance modification was reviewed by the HPC at their July 8th meeting and was recommended for approval with minor modifications. On August 12th, a final draft ordinance was presented to the Land Use and Policy Committee. The committee requested several additional changes. The most notable change to this was the inclusion of the property owner consent clauses for landmark and historic district designation. At the September 9th meeting, the Land Use and Policy Committee considered the final draft of the Historic Preservation Ordinance and forwarded a recommendation to this village board to accept the revisions as presented. So I motion that we accept the recommendation of the Land Use and Policy Committee, waive the first and second readings, and pass an ordinance repealing ordinance number 1455 and adopting the revised Village of Frankfort Historic Preservation Ordinance. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Keith. And then we have 4 items from our Operations Committee, and we'll go to Trustee Borelli, who is Chair of the Operations Committee, for a report on those items.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first item that we discussed at the Operations Committee meeting was the disposal of surplus vehicles. At that meeting, the Utilities Department requested committee approval for the disposal of a 2005 Explorer upon delivery of a 2020 Ford Transit 150 cargo van purchased from Curry Motors of Frankfort. The van has been delivered, and the 2005 Ford Explorer is no longer of use to the village. It was the consensus of the committee to forward a recommendation to the village board declaring the 2005 Ford Explorer as surplus property for disposal upon receipt and commissioning of the replacement vehicle. So the motion before us tonight is to accept the recommendation of the Operations Committee, waive the first and second readings, and pass an ordinance authorizing the sale of certain surplus property owned by the Village of Frankfort, Will, and Cook Counties, Illinois. The next item was the Harlem Avenue water main extension. At that same meeting, the Operations Committee reviewed the 6 bids received for the Harlem Avenue water main extension project. Of the bids received for the project, Swallow Construction was the low bidder in the amount of $605,053.00. The project includes installation of a new water main along Harlem Avenue from Southwick Drive south roughly 2,500 feet to connect to an existing water main stub constructed as part of the Crystal Brook subdivision, which is just north of Stager Road. Robinson Engineering reviewed the bid documents for the project and recommended award of the contract to Swallow Construction. It was the consensus of the committee to forward a recommendation to the village board to accept the low bid and award the contract to Swallow Construction Incorporation in the amount of $605,053 for the Harlem Avenue water main extension project. So the motion before us tonight is to accept the recommendation of the Operations Committee and adopt a resolution authorizing the execution of a contract with Swallow Construction Corporation for the Harlem Avenue Water Main Extension Project in an amount not to exceed $605,053.00. The next item we discussed was the Police Department replacement of camera, server, and components. This was a fun discussion. At that committee meeting, we reviewed a request from Deputy Chief Kevin Keegan for the replacement of the Police Department's camera, server, and components. These items would be purchased through Safe Fleet Mobile Vision. The system currently supports 15 squad car cameras and 2 interview room cameras and provides critical support to the investigation division. It was the consensus of the committee to forward a recommendation to the village board to authorize the purchase of a replacement camera server, backup storage system, software, and wireless access point antennas from Safe Fleet Mobile Vision at a cost not to exceed $28,133.70. So the motion before us tonight is to accept the recommendation of the Operations Committee and adopt a resolution authorizing the execution of an agreement to purchase between the Village of Frankfort Police Department and Coban Technologies Incorporated / Safe Fleet Mobile Vision in an amount not to exceed $28,133.70 for the replacement of camera server and components. The last item we discussed was the software license and service agreement resolution. The committee reviewed a proposed software license and services agreement for the Magnet platform used by the building department since 2011. The license agreement reflects current standards in software licensing and defining standards of service, addresses prior contract amounts due, and sets revised contract amounts. The term of this license agreement is 3 years with automatic 1-year renewals. It was the consensus of the committee to forward a recommendation to the village board to approve and enter into a software license and services agreement with Computer Software Incorporated for the Magnet platform as presented and subject to final legal review. The motion before us tonight is to accept the recommendation of the Operations Committee and adopt a resolution authorizing the execution of a software license and services agreement between the Village of Frankfort and Computer Software Incorporated for the Magnet platform, subject to final legal review. And that's all I have.
Well, thank you, Adam. That's plenty. And then we have 3 items from our Plan Commission, and we will be considering those this evening. So we'll go to our liaison to the Plan Commission, Trustee Clavio, for a report on those.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you said, we have 3 items before us tonight, and of those 3 items, 4 motions before us. The first item is the Gutschen-Ritter accessory structure setback variance. The applicant, Stephen Gutschen-Ritter, proposes to construct a 12 by 12 patio at the southwest corner of his yard adjoining the existing garage located at 142 Walnut Street. The applicant requests the approval of an accessory structure setback variance from 10 feet to 2.73 feet to accommodate this proposed patio. At the August 27th, 2020 Plan Commission meeting, the Commission forwarded a unanimous recommendation to the Village Board to grant the variance request. So before us on this issue tonight is to accept the Plan Commission recommendation, waive the first and second readings, and pass an ordinance granting an accessory structure setback variance from 10 feet to 2.73 feet to permit the construction of a patio in the rear yard of the property located at 142 Walnut Street in accordance with the reviewed plans and public testimony. The second item we have before us is the Schwerhub building materials variance. The applicant, Gander Builders, proposes to raise the existing home located at 239 Utah Street and construct a new 2,853 square foot single family home. The property owners, Andy and Kim Schwerhub, propose to construct an American four square style home finished in clapboard style composite siding. The proposed non-masonry construction is consistent with the recommendations of the Downtown Residential Design Guidelines and was reviewed and approved by the Old Town Homeowners Association. To accommodate the proposed home, the applicant requests approval of building materials variance. Also at the August 27, 2020 Plan Commission meeting, the Commission forwarded a unanimous recommendation to the Village Board to grant this variance request. So before us on this issue is to accept the Plan Commission recommendation, waive the first and second readings, and pass an ordinance granting a building materials variance to permit the use of composite siding on the first floor of the new home proposed at 239 Utah Street in accordance with the reviewed plans and public testimony. The last item we have is the Needham residents. They are seeking a building materials variance ordinance change and the subdivision of final plat approval. The applicants Tracy and Owen Needham propose to consolidate 2 vacant lots located at 318 Oak Street and construct a new 2,749 square foot single family home. The proposed home utilizes a craftsman style architecture with its facades finished in predominantly non-masonry materials. The proposed non-masonry construction is indeed consistent with the recommendations of the Downtown Residential Design Guidelines and was also reviewed and approved by the Old Town Homeowners Association. To accommodate the proposed home, the applicants requested the approval of the building materials variance and a final plat subdivision. Again, at the August 27th, 2020 Plan Commission meeting, the plan forwarded 2 unanimous recommendations to the Village Board to grant approval of the final plat for the Needham subdivision and the building materials variance request. So those 2 motions before us tonight are to, 1, accept the Plan Commission recommendation, waive the first and second readings, and pass an ordinance granting a building materials variance to permit the use of composite siding on the first floor of the new home proposed at 318 Oak Street in accordance with the reviewed plans and public testimony. And the second motion before us tonight is to accept the Plan Commission recommendation and approve the final plat for the Needham subdivision prepared by Martin M. Engineering, Inc., updated in accordance with the reviewed plans. That's all I have tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, John. And those are all of the items that we have on our consent agenda this evening. So before we vote on those items, is there anyone in the audience who wanted to make a comment to the village board about any of these items in particular? Not hearing anything. Any comments from the trustees? Then we'll go to our clerk, Brian Feary, for the vote.
Trustee Severia.
Yes.
Trustee Petro.
Yes.
Trustee Ogle.
Yes.
Trustee Farina.
Yes.
Trustee Clavio.
Yes.
Trustee Borelli.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next item of business this evening is from a committee of the whole, and it has to do with the sale of the 1 North White Street property. And as a result of public committee meetings held on August 17th and September 8th, and this evening, just before this meeting, we've been discussing whether to sell this particular property, whether it is surplus, and what would be the conditions and terms that we would sell it under. So we've had 3 meetings on this issue, and we're very close to saying that, yes, it's surplus property, and yes, we want to sell it. Now, the property we're talking about is the property in which the business called My Sisters and Me is located. It's on White Street. It's 1 North White Street. So it would be the land that goes right around that building, a little bit into the parking lot, and it would be the building itself. Interesting process, interesting discussions among the board members. We wanted to the public to know what we're doing on this issue and have input on it. We have had members of the public and business community express interest in purchasing this building. We would expect more than one offer to purchase the building. So it's an interesting process for us, and we're not quite finished with the process. At the committee meeting tonight, we made several suggestions to the staff to make some adjustments to the time schedule, to some of the other issues about the property. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to postpone this issue until our next meeting. We have a motion by Trustee Farina and a second by Trustee Severia to postpone this issue to the next meeting. Any comments or discussion from the trustees? Not hearing any, we'll go to Clerk Feary for the vote.
Trustee Ogle.
Yes.
Trustee Petro.
Yes.
Trustee Severia.
Yes.
Trustee Farina.
Yes.
Trustee Clavio.
Aye.
Trustee Borelli. Motion carries.
Next item on the agenda is what we call the mayor's report. And the first item on the mayor's report is congratulations to all of the people of Frankfort, because your community has won an honor that really has to do with the residents here. The Village of Frankfort has won the prestigious Daniel Burnham Award, and it's the 2020 Daniel Burnham Award for its Your Future, Your Frankfort 2040 Comprehensive Plan. This award comes from the Illinois chapter of the American Planning Association, and they awarded it at their virtual awards program on September 16th. And of course, the award is named after one of the nation's most renowned urban planners and co-author of the 1909 Plan of Chicago. And we congratulate our residents on this, as well as our staff. The staff did a great job on it, but it really is the residents who helped put this plan together and gave it the special recognition for the award, that there was so much community participation, and recognize that a comprehensive plan for a village it's like a strategic land plan. It's a long-range plan for land uses in the community. And our particular plan certainly made special discussion about our downtown and what we envision for the future in our downtown, both the business area and the housing area. And it will make an impact on laws that we're working on right now. So it'll be very interesting to see how it goes, but good for all of you for being involved in it so much. Old Plank Road Trail 5K Run and Walk goes virtual. The 24th Annual Old Plank Road Trail Run and Walk will take place from October 3rd to October 10th. And a finisher's medal and a race shirt will be awarded to all of the registered participants who complete the 3.1 miles by October 10th. So registration is required, and you can find it on villageoffrankfort.com. The Fall Country Market continues through October 25th, and that's every Sunday from 9 until 1 o'clock in the downtown. And we have a comment this evening about Halloween. Our staff has received inquiries from residents about Halloween, and I understand there's been a fair amount of chatter on social media and other platforms about Halloween. And I just thought, I'll give you my thoughts about Halloween. First thing, Halloween's not run by the Village of Frankfort. In addition, Frankfort does not have a public health department, so it's really not appropriate for us to give instruction about potential health aspects of trick-or-treating. We rely on public health guidance from the county and the state and the federal government. I also don't believe that the village really has the authority to either ban Halloween or to require people to go trick-or-treating. Participation in trick-or-treating is really an individual choice. Parents can allow their children to trick-or-treat, or they can tell their children they cannot trick-or-treat, or they can come up with an alternative program for their children. And if residents don't want trick-or-treaters to stop by their home, generally, if you just turn your light off, the front porch light, people won't come to your home. And I guess to assist, though, with the orderliness of trick-or-treating, the village has in the past set hours. And the hours, I believe, are 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock that we have set in the past. And I fully expect that at the last meeting in October, I will announce the same hours for trick-or-treating, just as we have done in the past. Now, I do know that our residents will use good judgment about how to handle Halloween during a pandemic. I take a moment to remind residents of some of the basic guidelines to help prevent the spread of COVID-19 that are published on the Centers for Disease Control website. And one of the first ones they'll talk about is stay 6 feet away from other people. 6 feet, people, stay 6 feet away. Cover your mouth and nose with a mask when around other people. And the mask is not a substitute for staying 6 feet away from others. Always cover your nose and mouth with a tissue when you cough or cough into the inside of your elbow. Frequently wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. So personally, what I plan to do this Halloween is I will leave candy on a table out on the walkway to my front door. And if the weather cooperates, I'll be sitting over 6 feet away from that table to welcome the trick-or-treaters. And others can do what they see as appropriate. And I'll say to our trustees, and I'll say to the people in the public, if I'm not seeing something here, or you think there's something else that we ought to be discussing about Halloween, then we have a committee meeting scheduled for October 14th, the second Wednesday of October, and let us know if you think there's something we need to be discussing, and we will. But that's my comment about Halloween. And Jeff or Rob, I think it might be appropriate to just say mayor comments on Halloween and publish that on our website. And if any of the trustees have a big problem with it, be sure to let me know. And one other item, I was advised today that Casey Staneviches is resigning her position on the Historic Preservation Commission because she's moving out of town. And that's appropriate of her, but we will miss her, and we think that's too bad. Her term expires in May of 2022, so she has a term that goes for a ways here, and we should not be without a person on that committee that whole time. So hopefully as early as tomorrow, the staff can get an application for the Historic Preservation Commission up on our website, and we'll start taking applications as soon as that's published up there. And of course, you can come into the village and pick up an application. But it's a very interesting way to get involved in our community. If you have an interest in preserving the heritage, the history, the character of our whole community, that's a good committee to join. They're very dedicated people there, and they've been working very hard at changing some of the rules, updating them, and landmarking buildings. So interesting job indeed. And that concludes the mayor's report. So we'll go from there to our deputy chief, Will Dowding, for the police department report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A member of our clerical staff, Beverly Glass, has retired after 15 years of service. We wish her the best in her retirement. And then our second item is please continue to lock your car doors and your garage doors. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Will. And now for the village administrator's report, we go to our village administrator, Rob Pisha.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to update the community. I don't know if you had a chance to see St. Francis Road, but they have completed the restoration. They did complete putting the last bit of the trail right at Pfeiffer Road. So the road actually looks fantastic, and after 2.5 some years of construction, we're very happy to have it finally finished, but the road looks great. Also want to remind people that Census has extended the time for filling out the information till the end of September 30th. Right now, Frankfort has a high participation rate at 85%, but obviously we'd like to get that to 100%. And finally, also want to congratulate Bev, who is a longtime employee. Wish her well on her retirement and next phase of her life. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Rob. And now for our village attorney's report, we'll go to the village attorneys, Hannah Lamore and George Mahoney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would also congratulate Beverly. I have enjoyed working with her for the last few years, and I appreciate the friendly voice that I do call over to the police department. So we wish her the best. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Hannah. And with that, we come to the part of our meeting we call Other Business, and this evening we'll start with our clerk, Brian Feary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Got a couple things here I just wanted to talk about real quick. The Village of Frankfort will have petition packets available tomorrow, beginning tomorrow, September 22nd, 2020, for persons who wish to run in the April 6, 2021 consolidated election. The filing period for these petitions is December 14, 2020 through December 21st, 2020 at the Village Administration Building at 432 West Nebraska Street. the Village of Frankfort municipal offices to be elected for a 4-year term are president, clerk, and 3 trustee positions. So if you aren't interested in running for one of these positions, it's a really rewarding experience, and it's something that has been really a blessing for me in my life, being involved in local government. Second thing I wanted to talk about was the November 3rd general election. In-person voter registration deadline is October 6th, and online registration deadline is October 18th for the November 3rd general election. Any registered Will County voter may request a vote by mail ballot. The Will County Clerk's Office will begin mailing vote by mail ballots on Thursday, September 24th. Ballots must be completed and returned to the Will County Clerk's Office no later than 7 p.m. on Election Day. Ballots received at the Will County Clerk's Office after Election Day must be postmarked by Election Day, November 3rd. Voters can track their applications and ballots online at www.thewillcountyclerk.com. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Well, thank you, Brian. That's quite a bit tonight. Trustee Clavio.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I actually have nothing. Thank you.
Well, thank you, John. Trustee Petro.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to echo your congratulations on the Daniel Burnham Award for the comprehensive plan, and being recognized by the Illinois American Planning Association is great. But I also just want to recognize that it hasn't been a plan that's, sat on a shelf for dust to collect. We've seen it referenced and used so much. I mean, even as of tonight, with all 3 of the Plan Commission reports and in the discussion for the potential sale of 1 North White Street. So just congratulations to all the residents, staff, and everyone who worked on that great planning report. I know it served as a great compass for us helping to make decisions for the future of Frankfort. Thank you.
Thank you, Jess. Trustee Severia.
Just want to thank Casey Stananovich for her work. It was great to see somebody young and, bring a little bit of youth and vibrance to our committees, and hopefully we get somebody young and, to replace her. Also, it was great to see the tents up on Kansas Street. I actually was at Kansas Street Grill and the Fat Rosie's, and it was really good. I mean, the weather started turning. It couldn't have been more perfect time. That's all I had.
Thank you, Jean. Trustee Farina.
Thank you, Mayor Helen. I just want to acknowledge your announcement and your retirement, and thank you for your service. I know we have quite a few more months ahead of us to work together and to learn from you, and I look forward to the remainder of your journey on the board, and just wanted to acknowledge that tonight.
Well, thank you, Margaret. Thank you. Trustee Ogle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's a couple things, too, that I hate to be the one to repeat these again, but definitely, lock it or lose it. We keep having these same problems over and over, and you can't stop necessarily the criminal intent, but if we can make it more difficult for people. Last week, all the vehicles were left open that were broken into. Village Administrator Pisha had made a mention about the census to the extended to the end of the month. The census is very important to be counted. Next year, they'll start to give that information back to the areas, and they redraw the districts. And sometimes those are very gerrymandered. Sometimes they're, hopefully at some point, we will have a fair map amendment, and we'll have some fair districts, but it's very important that you do get counted. One is so that federal and state dollars come to where they're supposed to come, and that our village and our county and our state are all recognized. Congratulations to Beverly on your retirement. Hope you have a great retirement. Enjoy that too. And a quick question for our clerk. Is early voting going to be held here at the village as it has been in the past?
Yes, it will be.
Okay.
So far.
I'm sorry? So far. Do we have a date and that starts?
That I do not have. I believe I know it ends the week before, but I don't have the actual start.
It's the 2 full weeks before the election, before the Tuesday election.
Okay.
So that's what it is.
Okay. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Trustee Borelli.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'll say I'm still in disbelief of your statement that you're not running again. Your impact on I know we'll have a lot of time to say some great things about you, but your impact on this community cannot be put in words. And it's not just the big stuff, it's the little stuff, like your words on Halloween tonight, which is just completely sensible, dead on, and we'll miss it. And I'll cherish these next 7 months working with you. I did want to also thank a lot of our residents we saw tonight. Several items come from the Plan Commission. We have another busy Plan Commission agenda on Thursday. People are reinvesting into our community. I love to see it. Permits are at all-time high. It's Mayor, you've put this community in the right place where people want to stay here. They don't want to just move here. They want to stay here and reinvest in this community. It's wonderful to see. And so thank you to our residents for spending that, investing in our community. I do appreciate it. And I had one more thing, but I'll just stop there. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Adam. Thanks very much. And that brings us to the part of our meeting we call public comments. Is there anyone who'd like to make a comment to the village board tonight? Please come forward to the microphone so that the people on the television and internet can hear you.
Did you want me to state my name first?
That's up to you.
Okay. I'm Belinda Olszewski, and I live in the Five Oaks subdivision. There are over 20 lots in the Five Oaks subdivision that are only cut in the front part of the lots. It has always been cut completely, and for some reason, they're growing very high, and I would like to know why the village is allowing one builder to have preferential treatment by allowing this to happen. All of us residents have to cut our entire lots. We don't just get to cut the front and let the back go. So I was told last month that they would make sure that the entire lots were cut, and that did not happen. I would like to know when you're going to stop showing favoritism to one individual. Many lots in our subdivision look terrible. Secondly, lots 16 and 17 was combined by the Planning Commission. The HOA approved that not more than 4 standard garages, autos, but the plan was approved with a 6-car garage. How did this happen? I thought the village was supposed to review all the plans according to our covenants, and the covenant under 5.3 states a private garage of sufficient size to house not less than 2 1/2 and not more than 4 standard size automobiles shall be constructed or erected. I would also like to invite every village trustee to come and look at this house. The elevation on this house, it looks terrible. It's so high, it's high in the back. If you go on the other side and look across the lake, it's very, very high. Last but not least, I would like to see the village and the park board work together to get the park property in the hands of the park so that we can have our park. I've lived in this subdivision for 14 years waiting for my park and sidewalks. Now that this year kind of kicked off and the development is going and there's more houses, we surely would like to see our park. I know that when I was on our HOA board, I worked with the village and the park district, and I was told you needed to know the name of the person to contact for their property. You now have that information, and I would hope that you form a committee with the park district and maybe a couple residents. I'd be more than happy to attend and share information and move forward so that we can have our park. The park is saying that they needed it turned over to them by the village, and we know the whole story. We've worked together. So I would hope that now we can move forward in the next year, year and a half, and proceed and hopefully get a park so we can get some younger kids in the area of our homes to play at the park. Thank you very much.
Oh, don't go away yet.
Oh, good. I'm going to get answers.
So I got 3 items that
Yes.
Certain lots are only being cut in the front and
Yes.
not the entire lot.
Correct.
And you think there's something shady going on there or something,
Well, I
but
just don't
that's
think
okay.
it's fair. I just don't think it's fair that the
Yeah, of
residents
course
are
not.
cutting their lots, and there's people who own those other lots, and they're cutting front to back.
And they're
On
cutting them
Sunburst
all.
Point,
These
they're
are
cutting
all
them all.
vacant lots, just so
Mhm.
people understand. So staff, please let us know what the issue is there, or look into it. It sounds like we've agreed to get them cut,
Mhm.
and it hasn't happened.
Right, this time.
that what we're kinda
This month,
saying?
it didn't happen again. It happened where they only
Yeah,
cut.
he's only cutting the front and not the back. So what do our ordinances say on it?
Address, Mr. Mayor, if it's not cut this week, Bill's is gonna be out there, we'll have ours do it, and then we'll be leaving the property, doing what
Appreciate that.
we've done in the past.
Oh, good. So we're gonna send one of our machines out.
Correct, not ours, but Bill's, correct.
Oh, Bill's is gonna do it, okay. Oh, well,
They're our contractor for, rough cutting.
okay, and fine. So
Appreciate that. Thank you.
keep in touch with
I-
us
I
and make
will.
sure we do it.
I will, and will someone check on that elevation of that house that is very high above property?
What's the entrance of that home?
You know, if you take Sunburst Point straight into the court, you'll run right into it. It's lot 16, 17, I don't know the address.
Yeah, it's lot 16 and 17, and but I think what I may have been hearing is that you were looking for the village to enforce the covenants of
Correct.
the homeowners association.
Correct.
That's a problem. We cooperate with homeowners associations, we work closely with them, we encourage property owners to follow covenants and restrictions. When push comes to shove, we can't necessarily enforce the covenants. That's really your homeowners association job.
When I FOI'd the HOA checklist, and it said no more than 4 garages. But
Okay?
the plan was approved with 6.
Okay? I don't know, we enforce village ordinances. And it's up to your organization to enforce covenants.
Okay, so when the plan was approved, the 6-car garage is acceptable according to the village, is what you're telling me?
Well, I don't want to make a statement here that I don't know for
Okay,
sure.
well, maybe you could give me a call and explain.
But we can
'cause-
talk about it, but
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify about enforcing covenants. That's really put on the homeowners association to enforce covenants and restrictions. We help by basically telling people to talk to the homeowners association before you turn your permit, before you request a permit from the village. We ask people to do that.
Okay, and you don't.
And we try to gain cooperation.
Okay.
But if somebody says, this is acceptable by village ordinances, and I am not going to follow the covenants and restrictions, that's a contract, that's an agreement between the homeowners and the property owner, and has to be enforced in civil court, I guess is the difference.
Mr. Mayor, can I jump in for a second?
Yeah.
Planning Commission liaison, if you could provide the address of that specific house to the staff, they can at least check and see if they applied for any variances or anything relative to that property.
Yeah.
And then they did not?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, that answers my
I
question.
actually went and reviewed all of the minutes.
Right.
That answers my question then.
Right. But the details of it, feel free to speak to Jeff or call me, and we'll look into what we can look into, but I just thought I'd better try to clarify that.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay, and then the park property. The park property is the last one. Oh, is
Yes,
that
I-
ever an interesting issue?
Yes, it is.
Our village attorney is familiar with that, the staff is very familiar with it, the park district is, and certainly your
Yes.
homeowners association. Just so the public knows, this property was supposed to be a neighborhood park. And there were 2 lots that were supposed to go that way. And during the situation, the recession in 2008, the collapse of the developer, the financial issues that came up, it never happened. That property was not dedicated to the park district, and in fact, it ended up with a private owner. One way or another, right or wrong, I think, well, again, I better be sure of what I'm saying, but it ended up with a private party owning it.
Correct.
Now, there are various statements in various places that say it has to be a park. So the property is sort of worthless to the private property owner. but a lot of those statements are in contracts that expire at some point in time. So it is a difficult situation indeed, and the village has spent considerable time on the issue, and so is the Park District, and we've spent some money on the issue, trying to get it resolved, and frankly, we have failed. The property owner is somebody who says, I own it, and I'm keeping it. Now, they haven't come to the village with any proposal to build anything or do anything with the property, but it sits there. And I don't have a good answer for you, and I don't want to encourage you that I think that I can come up with an answer, because everything that I've been hearing about it is it's one of those situations that can't happen and did. How's that?
And it's unfortunate for myself. I have a handicapped daughter.
Yep.
That I moved into this subdivision so that I could have a park and sidewalks. And, 14 years later, no park.
Correct.
And at no fault of the residents in their
No
park.
fault.
And, I have documentation that says it was turned over to the park, but they never accepted it. But I have a letter that states that.
Yep.
So I'm a little confused of how we can't take that property back.
Well, I
now.
think the homeowners can band together and hire attorneys to see if they can straighten this whole thing out.
We have hired.
We've
we have
explored
hired
it
attorneys.
basically as far as we can take it. It's an issue, in essence, between the Park District and the homeowners.
Okay, I'll
And
attend the Park District meetings
I think
then.
that's the right answer, but I wish we could do more. We've actually spent quite a bit of time on it, and it is very frustrating, and it has to be extremely frustrating to you.
So has the homeowners association. We've spent legal fees and time, energy, attending all meetings with Park District, with the village. But I will attend the Park District and talk to them about it. Thank you
Good.
very much.
Okay, thank you, and thanks for the comments. Anyone else? Then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? This meeting is adjourned.